Please accept this token and my hand.
Is that the phone you are using to propose? Is that the phone you are using to propose?
Why did you reject him? He is a good man.
I deserve a better man than him.
You are becoming too picky. Do not judge him by his phone.
In the peaceful village of Umuara, there lived a beautiful young woman named Adesuwa. Adesuwa was admired by many people in the village. Whenever she walked through the market, young men noticed her. Whenever mothers gathered to discuss their unmarried sons, Adesuwa's name was often mentioned. She was beautiful, confident, and very particular about the kind of life she wanted. But there was one thing about Adesuwa that made her mother constantly worried. Adesuwa was extremely selective. She did not just want a good husband. She wanted a man who looked successful, dressed well, came from a respectable family, had money, and could provide the kind of lifestyle she had imagined for herself. But there was one requirement that was more important to her than all the others. The man had to own an iPhone. Adesuwa believed that the phone a man carried said something about the kind of life he could provide. Her mother had warned her many times, "Adesuwa, my daughter, there is nothing wrong with wanting a good husband, but don't become so focused on what someone owns that you forget to look at who the person really is." Adesuwa would laugh whenever her mother said this. "Mama, I know what I want. I don't want to marry someone and spend the rest of my life regretting that I settled." Her mother would shake her head and say, "There is a difference between having standards and expecting someone to have everything." But Adesuwa never listened. She believed she had plenty of time. She also believed that because men were always interested in her, she could reject one today and another would come tomorrow. Then one Saturday morning, a family arrived at her father's compound. Adesuwa's mother called her outside. "Adesuwa, come and greet our visitors." When Adesuwa entered the courtyard, she saw a young man sitting with his parents. His name was Daniel. Daniel stood respectfully when he saw her. "Good morning, Adesuwa." "Good morning," she replied. Both families exchanged greetings, and Daniel's father explained why they had come. "Our son has spoken very highly of your daughter. He wishes to marry her, and we have come to ask for your family's blessing." Adesuwa's father smiled. He knew Daniel's family well. Daniel was a hard-working young man. He wasn't wealthy, but he was responsible, respectful, and known for working hard on his farm. Adesuwa's mother was pleased with him. But while the adults were talking, Adesuwa noticed something. Daniel's phone was lying in his hand. She stared at it for a few seconds before asking, "Daniel, what phone do you use?" Daniel smiled. "This one." "What type is it?" "It's an Android." Adesuwa's expression immediately changed. She looked at the phone, then looked at Daniel. "I'm sorry," she said. Daniel looked confused. "Sorry for what?" Adesuwa folded her arms. "I don't think this will work." The entire compound became silent. Her mother looked at her in disbelief. "What are you saying?" Adesuwa pointed toward Daniel's phone. "He doesn't have an iPhone." Daniel's mother couldn't believe what she had heard. "My daughter, you rejected my son because of his phone." Adesuwa shrugged. "I have standards." Daniel's face became red with embarrassment. He had come to the compound with hope in his heart, but now he quietly thanked Adesuwa's parents and walked away with his family. As soon as they left, her mother turned to her. "How could you embarrass that young man like that?" Adesuwa replied, "Mama, I only told him the truth." "What truth?" "I want a man who can afford the kind of life I want." Her mother stared at her. "Did you ask if he was hardworking? That doesn't matter. Did you ask if he was respectful? Mama, please. Did you ask whether he would make a good husband?" Adesuwa rolled her eyes. "Love is not enough, Mama." Her mother sighed. "One day you will remember this conversation." Adesuwa laughed. "That day is very far away." Before we continue, tell us in the comment section where you are watching from. And if you love African folktales filled with drama, lessons, and unexpected twists,
Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's continue. A few months later, another family came to Adesuwa's home. This time around, the young man was named Emeka. Emeka was a teacher in a nearby town. He was educated, calm, respectful, and hardworking. He had a stable job and plans for the future. He wanted to build a school one day, help his younger siblings, and take care of his parents. When he came to meet Adesuwa, she was surprisingly interested. They talked for a long time. Emeka made her laugh, he spoke respectfully, and told her about the kind of family he hoped to build. Adesuwa listened carefully. Her mother was happy because for once, it seemed her daughter had found someone she liked. But as Emeka prepared to leave, he pulled his phone from his pocket. Adesuwa looked at it. It wasn't an iPhone. Her expression immediately changed. Emeka noticed. "Is something wrong?" "No," she replied. But after he left, her mother already knew. "You liked him." Adesuwa shrugged. "He was okay." "Then why did you reject him?" "He doesn't have an iPhone." Her mother closed her eyes. "Again?" Adesuwa became defensive. "Mama, I told you what I want." Her mother shook her head. "That young man is educated, hardworking, respectful, and responsible. What else do you want?" Emeka answered, "I want more." "More of what?" "More everything." Her mother looked sadly at her. "If you continue like this, you may spend your whole life looking for someone who doesn't exist." Adesuwa ignored her. She believed another man would come. And another man did come. Then another. Some were farmers, some were traders, some worked in the city, some were wealthy, and some were not. But Adesuwa always found something wrong. One man's clothes were too simple, another man's house was too small, another man didn't have a car. One man even had an iPhone, but it wasn't the latest model. Adesuwa rejected him too. "I don't want an old iPhone," she said. Her friends began noticing her behavior. One afternoon, Adesuwa sat with her friends under a tree. They were laughing and talking when one of them asked, "Adesuwa, we heard another man came to your house." Adesuwa smiled. "Yes." "And what happened?" "I rejected him." Her friends laughed. "Why this time?" Adesuwa lifted her phone proudly. His phone wasn't good enough. One of her friends stared at her. "You are serious?" "Of course." Another friend asked, "Adesuwa, what exactly are you looking for?" Adesuwa began counting on her fingers. He must be handsome, he must have money, he must dress well, he must have a good car, he must have an iPhone, he must come from a good family, and he must give me the kind of life I deserve. Her friends laughed, but one of them became serious. "Adesuwa, there is nothing wrong with having standards, but don't become so selective that you reject every good person because he doesn't have everything you want." Adesuwa waved her hand. "That won't happen to me. There are plenty of men." Her friend looked at her carefully. "Just remember that people don't remain available forever." Adesuwa laughed.
I have time. Some months later, one of Adesuwa's childhood friends got married. The whole village gathered for the traditional wedding. There was music, dancing, food, and celebration everywhere. Adesuwa arrived looking beautiful, with her iPhone in her hand. She watched the bride and groom carefully. The groom wasn't wealthy, he wasn't dressed extravagantly, and he wasn't showing off an expensive phone. But he treated his bride with love and respect. When she needed water, he brought it. When she became tired, he helped her sit down. When she laughed, he laughed with her. The bride looked genuinely happy. Adesuwa watched them from a distance. Her friend beside her said, "Look at them." Adesuwa smiled. "They look happy." Her friend replied, "They are." Adesuwa looked at the groom. "But he isn't rich." Her friend smiled. "Maybe she didn't marry his wallet." Adesuwa rolled her eyes. "Please don't start." Her friend laughed, but Adesuwa continued watching the couple. For a brief moment, she wondered whether happiness could really be that simple. But she quickly pushed the thought away. She still wanted more. Not long after the wedding, Adesuwa finally received the phone she had always dreamed about. A relative returned from the city and gave her a brand new iPhone. Adesuwa was overjoyed. She held the phone in both hands, admired the screen, checked the camera, and immediately began taking pictures. She proudly showed it to her friends. Her mother watched her from a distance. "Are you happy?" her mother asked. Adesuwa smiled, very happy. Her mother looked at the phone and quietly said, "I hope it gives you the happiness you are looking for." Adesuwa didn't understand what she meant. She believed that now she had the phone she wanted, the perfect man would soon come. But while Adesuwa was celebrating her new phone, Daniel was building his future. He worked harder, expanded his farm, started doing business in the city, and saved his money. Years passed. Then one day, Adesuwa went to the village market and saw a familiar face. A car stopped near the roadside, and a successful-looking man stepped out. Adesuwa stared at him. It was Daniel. But he was no longer the young man who had once nervously sat in her father's compound. He had become successful, and he was not alone. A beautiful woman stood beside him, and 2 children were with them. Adesuwa stood still. Daniel noticed her. "Adesuwa." She forced a smile. "Daniel?" He greeted her politely and introduced his wife and children. His wife smiled warmly at Adesuwa. Daniel didn't remind her of the past. He didn't insult her. He didn't ask why she had rejected him. He simply smiled, greeted her, and continued working with his family. Adesuwa watched them disappear. Then she looked down at the iPhone in her hand. For the first time, the phone didn't make her feel proud. It reminded her of the young man she had rejected, without even giving herself the chance to know what kind of husband he could have been. She whispered, "What if I had—" But she stopped herself. She shook her head and walked home. She didn't know it yet, but that moment would remain in her heart for years. "Adesuwa, are you happy?" her mother asked one evening. Adesuwa looked at her mother and frowned. "Why are you asking me that?" Her mother sighed. "Because I have been watching you for years." Adesuwa looked away. "Watching me do what?" "Reject people." Adesuwa became defensive. "Mama, I haven't found the right man." Her mother nodded slowly. "You have been saying that for years." "Because it's true." Her mother looked at her. "Then tell me, what exactly is the right man?" Adesuwa became quiet. Her mother continued. "You have rejected hard-working men because they were not rich enough. You rejected a teacher because he didn't have an iPhone. You rejected another man because his car was too old. You even rejected a man because his iPhone wasn't the latest model." Adesuwa frowned. "Mama, you make it sound worse than it is." Her mother shook her head. "I don't have to make it sound worse. You did that yourself." Adesuwa folded her arms. "I simply know what I want." Her mother reached for her hand. "No, my daughter. You know what a man to have. You haven't asked yourself what you want a man to be." Adesuwa said nothing. Her mother continued. "A phone can break. A car can spoil. Money can disappear. Clothes can become old. But character is what remains when all those things are gone." Adesuwa sighed. "Mama, I understand." Her mother shook her head. "One day you will understand." Years continued to pass. Adesuwa watched her friends get married and build families. Some had children. Some had moved away. Some had started businesses with their husbands. Whenever Adesuwa attended their celebrations, she smiled and congratulated them. But when she returned home, the compound was quiet. Still, whenever her mother asked about marriage, Adesuwa gave the same answer: "I haven't found the right person." Then Adesuwa met a man who seemed to have everything she had always wanted. His name was Victor. He was handsome, fashionable, wealthy, and carried an expensive iPhone. The moment Adesuwa saw him with the phone, she was impressed. Victor knew how to present himself. He dressed well, spoke confidently, and talked about money and success. Adesuwa believed she had finally found the man she had been waiting for. But after spending more time around him, she began seeing another side of him. Victor was rude to people. He looked down on those who had less than him. He was impatient and easily angered. One day, an elderly woman politely greeted him. Victor barely acknowledged her. Another day, a young boy accidentally got too close to him and Victor shouted at the boy. Adesuwa watched quietly. The boy looked frightened. Adesuwa looked at Victor, then at his expensive phone.
something inside her changed. Later, she asked him, "Why did you speak to that boy like that?" Victor shrugged. "People need to know their place." Adesuwa stared at him. She remembered Daniel. She remembered Emeka. She remembered all the men she had rejected because they didn't have what she wanted. Suddenly, she realized that the iPhone she used to judge men could tell her what kind of phone they owned, but it could never tell her what kind of heart they had. Money could tell her what someone could buy, but it couldn't tell her whether he would be kind. A car could tell her how someone traveled, but it couldn't tell her whether he would stand beside her during difficult times. Adesuwa had been asking the wrong question all along. She had always asked, "What does he have?" She had rarely asked, "Who is he?" Victor eventually left her life, but the lesson remained. Adesuwa still hoped that one day she would find someone who was truly right for her. But time continued moving. 36, 37, 38, 39, and then Adesuwa turned 40.
Her 40th birthday arrived quietly. Her family prepared a small celebration. There was food, a cake, laughter, and people wishing her well. But while everyone was celebrating, Adesuwa looked around the compound and noticed how much life had changed. The girls she had grown up with were now mothers. Some had teenage children. Some had been married for many years. Some were already grandparents. Children were running around the compound, while husbands and wives sat together and laughed. Adesuwa watched them quietly. She remembered the young girl she had once been. She remembered saying, "I have time." She remembered saying, "There are plenty of men." She remembered saying, "I can do better." But now, those words sounded different. That evening, after the celebration ended, Adesuwa sat outside with her mother. Her iPhone was beside her. Her mother looked at her. "What is wrong?" Adesuwa took a deep breath. "Mama?" Her mother waited. "I think I made a mistake." Her mother remained silent. Adesuwa continued. "I thought I was being careful. I thought I was choosing the best for myself, but I kept rejecting good men because they didn't have everything I wanted." Her voice became shaky. "I had so many men come to me, Mama." She wiped her eyes. "Some were hardworking, some were respectful, some genuinely loved me, but I always found something wrong." Her mother held her hand. "You wanted perfection." Adesuwa nodded. "Yes, I thought if I kept waiting, someone better would come." Her mother asked softly, "And what do you think now?" Adesuwa was silent for a long time. Then she whispered, "I think I was so busy looking for something better that I didn't appreciate what was already good." Her mother pulled her close. Adesuwa cried. She wasn't crying because she believed every woman must be married by 40. She wasn't crying because she thought she should have accepted every man who approached her. She was crying because she finally understood that she had been given many opportunities to choose a good partner, but she had rejected some of those opportunities for reasons that had nothing to do with their character. A few days later, Adesuwa went to the market. There, she saw another man she had once rejected. He was standing with his wife and children. The family looked happy. The man recognized Adesuwa and greeted her respectfully. "Adesuwa, how are you?" "I'm fine," she replied. She smiled at his wife and children. They looked genuinely happy together. She watched them for a moment and then they continued walking. Adesuwa did not call the man back. She did not try to interfere with his family. She simply stood there and watched them leave. This time, she understood. He had moved on. His life had continued. The opportunity she once had was no longer hers. Adesuwa returned home quietly. Later that evening, she sat outside her mother's house. Her iPhone was beside her. She picked it up and looked at it. She remembered how important that phone once seemed. She remembered how many people she had judged because they didn't own one. Then she placed it down. She looked toward the village. She could hear children laughing. She could hear families talking. She could hear husbands and wives preparing dinner together. Life was moving forward all around her. Adesuwa finally accepted the truth.
There was nothing wrong with wanting a good husband. There was nothing wrong with having standards. There was nothing wrong with wanting a comfortable life. But there was something wrong with becoming so selective that you rejected every good person because they didn't have every single thing on your list. Adesuwa had spent years looking at phones, clothes, cars, money, and status. She had forgotten to look at kindness. She had forgotten to look at character. She had forgotten to look at responsibility. She had forgotten to ask whether someone would love her, respect her, support her, and stand beside her when life became difficult. She had searched for perfection and overlooked goodness. And by the time she finally understood the difference, many of the opportunities she once had were already gone. But Adesuwa's story did not end with regret alone. Her realization changed the way she saw people. She became more humble. She stopped judging people by what they carried. And one day, another respectable young man came to her family compound. He was simple, hardworking, and respectful. He did not arrive with expensive clothes or flashy possessions. He greeted Adesuwa's mother respectfully and spoke sincerely about his intentions. Adesuwa noticed the simple phone in his hand. For a moment, the old Adesuwa might have rejected him immediately, but this time she did something different. She looked at the man, listened to his words, and smiled. She had finally learned to look beyond the phone. She understood that she did not have to accept a man simply because he wanted her. But she also did not have to reject a good man simply because he didn't possess everything she had once demanded. Her mother watched the conversation with a warm smile. She knew her daughter had finally understood the lesson. Adesuwa's story became a warning to the younger women in the village. It was not a lesson that women should marry early. It was not a lesson that women should accept every man who comes along. It was a lesson about contentment, wisdom, and knowing what truly matters. Have standards, but don't let material things blind you. Know what you want, but don't become so demanding that you fail to recognize goodness when it stands before you. Don't keep rejecting something valuable simply because it doesn't look exactly like the perfect picture in your head. Because sometimes, while you are busy waiting for something better, something good may quietly pass you by. And sometimes, when you finally understand its value, the opportunity may already be gone. So tell us in the comment section, what do you think about Adesuwa's choices? Was she simply being selective, or did she become too picky and reject good men for the wrong reasons? And where are you watching from? We would love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this African folktale, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more African stories filled with drama, lessons, and unexpected twists. And remember, sometimes the greatest mistake is not choosing the wrong thing. Sometimes it is rejecting something good while waiting for something that may never come.